Well, welcome again to Your Spiritual Journey. This is Dr. Bob Dove, and today I'm really excited to have someone with me who's way out there.
I would agree.
Kitsy Higgins is a psychic medium and coach. She's passionate about working with her clients and their deceased loved ones. She specializes in using deceased loved ones' guidance to heal her clients' past and remove roadblocks to their future. So she's got an MBA and over 15 years of personal development, and she can aid her clients in shifting their life and their business to the next level. She's been seen on ABC, CBS, NPR, and many other major media outlets. That's a mouthful. Major media outlets.
It is.
She lives here in Pittsburgh and has two children, Briley and Colin. And at this point, I'm just going to turn the mic over to you and let you take us through your spiritual journey from childhood till now.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's been lovely meeting you. And I appreciate, having the opportunity to connect with you and to connect with the people who are going to be watching this. For myself, I originally did not talk for the first 8 years of my life.
Okay, there's a good conversation starter.
Yeah, that is a good conversation starter. Yeah. I try probably more than most people, where a lot of people would quit. I keep going in all areas of my life. That probably also includes love relationships too. I stay in longer than I should too. To me, I think that has given me the opportunity to succeed where a lot of people would have quit. I first learned of Reiki, which is a natural technique for relaxation and stress reduction. Some people do it in a massage. Other people do it more of a counseling / coaching type of stuff. I was doing, so that was my younger years. It took me a while to speak. I kind of look at that as it was an opportunity to, just really work hard for a goal and work hard to achieve something. And my mom, she's like, well, it was pretty much your brother that helped us understand what you were saying. And it was mute. My son has speech problems, but he can talk. So I'm like, oh, this is so much easier. So it kind of runs in the family. But to me, I look at that as it was an opportunity to be able to, I think it's that has given me success in my life. And I didn't really have a true spiritual experience when I was younger. It didn't start until I started doing marathons. And I was doing it with my 75-year-old grandma at the time. Yeah, super fun. She said, I think I want to do a marathon. And I said, oh, can I do it too? She said, yeah, we'll go to Walt Disney World and we'll do the half marathon. I was like, okay. So she was in New York State training and I was in Pittsburgh training and ran around the Catholic cemetery and the Calvary cemetery. I think cemeteries are a great place to run, very peaceful and serene, and you see the trees. I was just there this weekend and just getting to see all the beautiful, pieces of art of the headstones and the mausoleums and stuff. And at that time, I realized I was really pushing my body and realized to myself that my body needed something to relax it because I was really pushing it. And so I went to get massages, and the massage therapist was out in Cranberry area, Wexford. And she said, okay, we're done with the massage. Now I'm going to turn on the Reiki. And I was like, okay, whatever. And this was probably when I was 25. And I didn't know what it was. I just realized I felt at peace and I enjoyed it. And then about 6 months later, I looked it up online and I was like, what is this Reiki thing? Like, what is this? And so I found a teacher, Brad. He was based out by the airport at the time. I don't know where he is now. He was my first Reiki teacher. And then there was a very popular Reiki teacher called Bonnie Hassan, based out of Pittsburgh. And she became my main Reiki teacher. And I saw how Reiki helped me. It kind of lowered my stress levels. I would get angry and my husband would be like, you need a Reiki session. And so then I would call the Reiki teacher and be like, hey, I need to make an appointment. And so that's kind of how my spiritual journey started, was that massage, learning about Reiki, and then being taught it and realizing, oh, this is so cool. Like, you're getting to help people connect with their inner parts of them, who you might call God, you might call higher self, you might call, spirit, whoever you might call it. But it's, just kind of connecting you with more pieces of yourself that you might not have really tapped into. So for many years, I wanted a Reiki business and I did things. I tried. At one point I had a pamphlet run throughout Squirrel Hill that I would drop off pamphlets at the local coffee shops. Mm-hmm. If there was 8, I would come back the next month. If there was 3 gone, then I would add an extra 5. And I just kept going around hoping, to get business, hoping to start this Reiki business. And it was really fun. It was really exciting getting to start something that I wanted to do. So I finally started to see success in it. Really, the biggest shift for me was I had to drive a car out to Arizona. My coworker, I had just quit my job at Verizon home phone service. I took a buyout, and my coworker's like, hey, my daughter needs her car in Arizona. Could you take it there? And I was like, sure, I have no plans. So I said, I'm going to go to Sedona, Arizona while I'm there. And so I had sat in many Reiki circles. When I went to Reiki, I'd always be like, okay, I'm going to see someone weird. But I never saw someone weird. It was always just these lovely, sweet women, some men, that were just looking to connect with themselves and to connect with something higher. And so I was going in my car to Sedona, Arizona, and I prayed. I said, I pray that I get there safely. And I heard in my head, well, if you drive there safely, you'll get there safely. And I thought, who is this I'm hearing? And from sitting in those Reiki circles where people kept hearing and seeing and feeling and being like, oh, this is amazing. And I would just sit there getting nothing. Hearing something was like, yay, I heard something. So I feel like that kind of like broke through. I don't know if it was that Sedona, Arizona energy that I was eventually going to get to that kind of shifted things. I don't know, but there was something that shifted that day that I don't know if it's a higher power. I don't know if it's just that higher self or spirit that was just giving me advice. And I have to say, I arrived there safely. I also drove there safely. I still went over the speed limit. I still passed cars, but I didn't push it. I didn't go aggressive. It was just, I'm going to get there and I'm going to get there okay. And so that was really good advice. And I thought, oh, this is awesome. And so I still sat in many Reiki circles, meditation circles, that I got nothing. And at one point in my local business, I gave Reiki circles and people would say, I'm getting nothing. And I'm like, I've been there. Trust me. But I also know that some people do. They do have visions. They see and hear and things. And to me, it's so I can kind of relate to both. But yeah, so that was like my big aha moment, was hearing that, like, if you drive there safely, you'll get there safely. It was really cool.
Yeah. I happen to be a Reiki practitioner myself.
Yay! High five.
And
Yay!
I participate in some Reiki shares.
Good.
And I just want to put a plug in for the Northeast Reiki Retreat that's in New York, up in at Lake George. It's in May. And if you go online and look up Northeast Reiki Retreat, you'll find, how to get there and what it costs and all of that. But
That's awesome.
it's a terrific experience just to share with a large group of Reiki practitioners what their
cool.
experiences are.
Oh, that's neat. I'll have to look into that. Thank you.
Yeah. So let me back you up for a minute, because when we talk about a spiritual life and a spiritual journey, a lot of people have a childhood experience of their parents' church and some kind of religious upbringing that they may rebel against later, but at least they have some kind of a foundation somewhere in some kind of an experience with the denomination. So were you exposed to any of that?
No, I was not. My parents are very open, kind of non-religious. My mom is very open-minded. I remember we went to a summer, what is it called in the summer, the churches? Summer camp.
A retreat. Oh, summer camp?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
For the week. And so the church was like, well, we want you to say this stuff. And she's like, I don't believe in this stuff. I don't want to teach it. She was a teacher. So they're like, oh, great. She's going to teach this stuff. And she's like, I don't agree with this stuff, so I'm not going to teach it. Well, they were like, they were shocked. And I went to after school church thing. I forget what they call it, after school care or something. And it was once a week in this little tiny town called East Smithfield, out where I'm from. And I went to it just because it was like something new, and my parents weren't really religious. So it's like, plus I just wanted to, just do something different. And so he was teaching, religion. He was teaching Jesus and God, and so I remember it so vividly. and I came into the pastor's office and I said, I don't understand who Jesus is. Why can't it just be God? Why does there have to be a Jesus? Aren't we like why aren't we learning more about God than Jesus? So I realize I realize now that I had a different relationship with Jesus. My husband is Catholic, or my ex-husband is Catholic. And he would always say, you're not Christian because you don't believe Jesus will get you to heaven. Which I was like, but I still believe in all the other stuff. And he's like, yeah, but you don't believe that, so you're not Christian. I'm like, oh. But
did you get married in a Catholic church?
No, we got married in what is that called? United Church of Shellsburg. So it's a United Church. So it's like 3 or 4 different churches in one.
Okay. So
he's not Catholic. He doesn't really believe in the whole church thing. So it kind of fit that we got married. But so I feel Jesus. I've called him in my heart like 3 times in my life. I feel like he's a part of my life. I feel like he is someone that is like my friend, and that, like Jesus laid hands on people, which is what I feel Reiki is. So it's always been, so I knew at a very young age that what that church was teaching was not what I agreed with. And I still think that pastor's probably still praying for me. You're like, no doubt. He still has your name, Kitsy Craig, as she's gonna go off the deep end someday. But yeah, so it's and I appreciate any religion. You and I both know Squirrel Hill is very predominantly Jewish. So I'm really open to everyone's religion. And I just feel that it's my life and my good or bad decisions that will bring me to heaven. Sorry, my thing keeps falling. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but in my local business, I did a lot of readings where it was with God's white light. So it's like your grandma, your mom, a family member or sister. Towards the end of the local business, I worked with spirits that were in between, which were, to me, I think, really beautiful. It took me a long time to work in that segment because I was kind of fearful. But so I think it's, I think if we work through shame, if we work through the hard times and take responsibility for our lives, I think we can go to heaven, whether if you need Jesus or you don't need Jesus. I've made mistakes. I take responsibility of that. But I think it is, I think with the corrections I made in my life and paying people back, taking responsibility, working through the shame and working through guilt, I feel like heaven would accept me. And I feel I have a good, deep relationship with God, that I feel that, that if the light came, I would take it because I have a good relationship and I've made peace with what I've done and made peace with the mistakes I've done. So to me, I feel that, I don't need a person to take me to heaven. Mm-hmm. Which I know it might be I know some people might be like, that's really bad, but I got to do what I feel is right. And if someone disagrees, then that's fine. I respect that too.
Well, this podcast is all about everyone has their own spiritual journey, their own path. There are 8 billion people in the world, and there are 8 billion different journeys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, and it kind of fits of that, 5th grader where it's like, I don't really understand why there's 2 parts, God and a Jesus. Why can't it just be God? It really fits for my life and that Reiki relationship, because Reiki and Jesus does kind of the talk about it goes together in some Reiki families. So it kind of makes sense of my beliefs back then. And I think if I was more, if I believe different things, I think Reiki, I wouldn't have dabbled in Reiki. I don't think I would have dabbled in mediumship. Mm-hmm. So because of the beliefs of where I'm at and not totally religious, more spiritual, Jesus is my friend, I can dabble in Reiki, I can dabble in mediumship, I can dabble in other spiritual things. And so because of that, it's really allowed me to open up in many different areas of my life.
Yeah. Okay, so we can go back to Sedona. We are traveling to Sedona.
Yeah.
You got there safely.
I got there safely. Yep.
And then what?
So everything went fine for Sedona. I came back to Pittsburgh and I started my business. I think about a year later, I had my son, and that's still Reiki and wanting to start a business was still calling to me. And my Reiki master at the time went to Nashville. So she was selling CDs and DVDs. And so my son was just born. He was 3 months old, sitting on my lap, just chilling. And I was meditating to one of her CDs. And she said, all you have to do is just call upon your guides and angels and ask for your next steps. And so I said, God and angels, what are my next step about starting a Reiki business? And I heard quit in hospice. So I was making about 55,000 a year with Yellow Pages. I worked for Super Media, which was the Verizon Yellow Pages. And I said to my husband at the time, I need to quit my job and start volunteering at for Reiki at hospice. And he's like, okay. I felt like there was a hand pushing me in my back, telling me to like, go do this, do this, do this. And so, so he supported that decision. So I got to stay at home longer with my kid, who's now 10, very 10-year-oldish. And, but at the time, 3 months old. So I got to stay at home with him, which I think is the best time to be with him. They don't stay at home generally after they graduate high school. It's that period from 1 to 6 before they go to school that you'll really get the most time. So I got to have that time, which I'm so thankful. And, so I started volunteering at hospice. I wasn't the biggest fan of that period. To me, seeing people very close to death was kind of scary and uncomfortable, but I got to see the power of Reiki. I would go there, and the nurses, I went to family hospice. Family hospice. If I'm correct, I think that's what it was. In Lawrenceville. It's now UPMC. Hospice. But when I went there, I would go there once a week. You could either sign up with people who were dying and go to their home, or go to the facility where they were either there for pain management or they were close to dying and going to the light within 3 days or so. So I did the facility, and so they were very uneasy. They were very uncomfortable. They were very scared of death. They were very scared of coming to a place where they weren't familiar to die. And after the second time, the nurses said, "Oh God, you're back. Thank God." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they said, "We noticed the patients are calmer after you leave." I was, okay. And I knew that wasn't me. It's the Reiki. And so I really got to have a faith-based type of experience there. And I got to see just the power, how Reiki can reconnect with your inner being and just calm you in the hardest period sometimes of people's lives. So that was really beautiful. And then we moved out to New Kent, which is about 45 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. And it was a really great experience. We started a great and awesome community. The area I felt was really in the dark. A lot of people didn't talk about emotions. They didn't express their feelings. I felt there was people that had spiritual gifts, that they would go up to people that were high powered. And instead of them saying, "That's beautiful, keep working with it, nurture it," they heard, "This is the work of the devil. Stop doing it." So there was me and the other practitioners that were helping people get confident in themselves and to trust themselves and to trust what they were hearing. And I always said, if it's bad advice, that's your ego. That's not good, or something, negative. But if it's beautiful and sweet and it's your mother or your sister or a beautiful experience, then take that. That's real. And so those beautiful experiences they were having, they were being told, "No, that's bad." And so it kind of made people lose kind of pieces of them and of themselves. So so having that community that we started really helped to just build up the community and to build up what people's experiences were having. Yeah. It was really cool.
That's great.
Yeah. And so I did individual sessions. I organized a Lighthouse spiritual group, which brought in writers and just people like this. And they would talk about their story. and people would just get to come and attend it. It was free lectures, and then the psychic fairs that I ran. So that was the Lighthouse Spiritual Group, and that was really cool. So it was a great little community that we were doing. It was the first time I think the area had something like that.
Now, this was located in New Kensington?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I primarily did stuff at my home, and the Lighthouse Spiritual Group was sometimes in bakeries or sometimes in like different places. And then at one point, I rented an office, like kind of like a wellness center. So I did that. That was fun. It was really good. But it still went back to that whole thing of you're only helping a little tiny area, and how do you help people outside that area? So when my second child was born, I realized to myself, I want to help more people. I was seeing how we, the practitioners, the people that are open-minded, spiritual, were kind of helping that community. And I thought, how do we do the same thing but help more people throughout the world? And that's where I realized I need to move my business online. And when I had my second kid 5 years ago, I realized to myself that I needed to do a different format. Individual sessions are awesome and they're great, but so I was having a second kid who was going to require I breastfeed, so I would be working with that, and then I had a 5-year-old who was he was still in preschool, so I would have to be working with this and juggling both of those schedules, which that's full time, and then the preschooler is almost full time, and I would have had to cut back my sessions and be making less, helping less people. And I'm like, how do I do this? How do I work smarter, not harder? And that's where creating an online business started. And I didn't really know how it would look, and I didn't really know what to do. But I just knew I had to get these messages and my workshops online. And that's kind of what I've been doing ever since.
Well, you've talked a lot about Reiki, but you're also a psychic
Yeah.
and a medium.
Uh-huh.
So is that just part of your Reiki business, or is it separate, or what's that all about? How does that work? And what is that psychic experience for you?
Yeah. So I feel my Reiki lineage kind of has mediumship kind of involved. I think it's just it kind of strengthens it. I don't know about for yourself, but my Reiki master, her master was a nun from St. Francis Catholic Church, someplace. She's no longer in that area. But so, anytime someone says, oh, well, Reiki is, kind of not good, or it's bad. It's like, well, my grandmother of Reiki is a Catholic nun. Like, I don't think that, I know the Catholic Church looks at it differently, but it is, to me, if a nun did it, and if nuns still do it, I think it's a very good thing. And so I think the Reiki kind of brought that out. I know when I did Reiki sessions, the first time I did it at someone's home for hospice, I was doing the Reiki session and I kept hearing Jim. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I feel like I got to tell you, Jim's here. I was like, who is that? I think his name was Jim. I forget. But, and she said, she said, "Oh, that was my brother," and something very negative happened. It's been 10 years, so bear with me. But and it sounded to me that she hadn't totally worked through those feelings, and she hadn't totally worked through that grief. So I realized to myself, wow, that was really powerful that he was stepping forward, and it was really powerful that he was there to help her kind of shift that grief and to kind of heal that bond that they had. So that's kind of how the mediumship started. I'll never forget, I went to a psychic class 10 years ago in Friendship House out in Shadyside. And me and there's like 7 of us, this other girl and I, we did so bad. We're like, this is awful. And because they make you practice it. And when you're first getting into psychic ability and to like connecting with your intuition, it's not easy at first. And you're just really a beginner, and you're like, wow, you're like, I'm bad. So I've been there too. I've not been great at it either, but sorry. And it's funny because the lady I said that to after that class, she's also a medium now, and she's now at my psychic fairs. And so, she's worked through that beginner period, and she's, just worked her way up to being more kind of advanced. So I think we all have the ability to connect with our intuition, to connect with that psychic abilities. It is practice. And my biggest thing that has helped me was, are you familiar with John of God?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. He was around for many years. Now he doesn't have the best, if you read up on the news, it's not the best things about him. But for many years, he was very helpful. There's still people down in Brazil that help with the current for the entities. So even though if John of God's not there and the spokesperson for it, there's still people there that are constantly meditating and constantly keeping that connection with the entities. So my biggest thing that shifted me from being that person in that intuition class, being like, this was awful, to having a successful mediumship business was I experienced a third eye psychic surgery. One night in Greenfield, Squirrel Hill, I think my son was like a year old. And I had just sent out a payment for pills for John of God. So someone down there, there was different, and there's still people that go down there. And if you give in your picture, they'll prescribe you herbs. So I was taking the herbs. It has a very specific, like a 40-day period where you have to take the herbs. So I was doing that at that time. And one night I was just sleeping, and I had this very vivid dream, very unique dream. And I felt someone open up my third eye. I saw one of the entities, the doctor entities, opening up my eye and doing stuff around it. And then I saw like a kind of like a prism of those like red, blue, green light stuff. And I saw it was so beautiful. It looked like a prism that's on a wall. And I was like, oh my gosh, what was that? And I heard, you just received a third eye psychic surgery. You got to write it down. And so at 2:00 in the morning, I turn on the light. I said, Ryan, my ex-husband, I had to go write this down. I just received a third eye psychic surgery. And he's just like, whatever, and goes back to bed. He's like, oh, I don't know about her. But so I got that. And that's what really shifted me. And it took me about 3 months to realize that my mediumship had increased. I was trusting myself more. Intuition kind of came on stronger a little bit. And so things really shifted when that occurred. And so I wrote all the stuff down. I wrote the steps down. And then I offered that in psychic fairs. So when I started my business online, that was my first workshop that I offer online. And it's probably my most popular. I have it on Udemy. I have it on my website. And so if you're looking to increase your intuition, that helped. And that does help. And it's good for any level, beginner, intermediate, advanced, if you just want to kind of increase your intuition. But when I had that, I had the psychic class, really, really was bad at that. And then when I started my mediumship business, I was doing mediumship classes. I was attending them, not going to them, not like being in charge, but I was going to them at the local spiritualist church. And I thought, oh my gosh, is this my life for the rest of my life? Like, I have to keep going to these? And that third eye psychic surgery really shifted. It really shifted everything. And it shifted just my gifts, and it shifted my confidence in myself. I've done it probably with over 200 people now, and they've had crazy, unique experiences. I was just responding to someone on Udemy just now saying that that they felt a very strong urge, or strong, powerful energy sense on her third eye after she got it. So even though if it's online, it seems like it's still working. And those people that are down in Brazil who are still doing the current, it seems like they're helping and continuing that connection. I don't know what it is about that. Yeah. I know it helped me, and I know that's helped others. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a group out of Ohio called Now Creations, and one of their mantras is, does it work? Mm-hmm. Is it true? Does it feel right? Mm-hmm. And, that's how you determine whether or not it's right for you.
Yeah.
But
yep.
If it works, it works. And
yeah.
There are a lot of different modalities and just a lot of different paths. Mm-hmm. And you have to find your path and what works for you. And if it resonates, go for it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yep. Yeah. Yep.
So, there's such an openness about you, the way that, and honesty, the way that you talk about this, because I guess when you say you're trying to build a business, at the same time that you really seem to be getting help doing that from beyond the veil. Mm-hmm. And so you feel like, okay, I've got a team with me here.
Yeah.
So I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. In fact, I'm not doing this. We're doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's, that's the kind of spirit in which I think great progress is made, and how the evolution of the human race is.
Yeah. Well, and
happening.
I think also that when you try, eventually opportunity meet you. So when I tried for years to do that Reiki business, that I think at some point an opportunity comes, and then it's boom, you get it. But you have to try first. It's just like this online business. I've worked on it for 5 years, and I have 200 videos on YouTube. Am I having huge success? It's okay, but I'm trying. And at some point, the opportunity, just like that third eye psychic surgery, it'll go boom. At some point, the universe or God or our higher self or whoever it is going to say, oh, you try. Congratulations. Boom, you're going to get what you got and get what you want. And that's when unique experiences happen, or the third eye psychic surgery happens, or that's when weird miracles happen. But I think we first have to try. And then when that happens, then there's a different force that comes. and finishes it for
Yeah. Well, it's the power of intention.
you. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you've got the intention and you follow through with it,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to get that support.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where that whole not speaking for 8 years has helped me, where it's I try and I keep trying and I keep going, where a lot of people would say, "Oh, I'm out. I've not accomplished what I wanted to and I'm gone." Where for me it's I keep going.
Yeah. So what did the medical community tell your mother or tell your parents about this inability to speak for that long?
Oh, I think now they might kind of consider it autism, but they don't really have that. Um, there really wasn't anything they could really say, or they couldn't, it was just a speech therapist that they, put me in. I talked for like a few months at first, and then it just went brr, and I just stopped.
Yeah.
Same thing with my son. He talked for a good few months, had like 20 words. I was like, yay. And then just completely stopped it. Then it took years for him to really be really successful at it. So I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's just that family lineage. I'm not sure.
Yeah. It makes me think that he chose you as a parent,
Yeah.
knowing that you would have the kind of patience that he was going to need.
Yep. Well, and I think that trying and him going after that goal for so many years will just be shown in all areas of his life.
Yeah.
I think I've had a lot of success in my life. I was a landlord. I bought my first house at the age of 24. Owned a house in Greenfield. I loved it. I cried like crazy when I sold it. Especially now with inflation. I'm like, oh, I could have been charging so much for rent. But so I did that, and it was successful. And I had a successful local business. I think it's one of those things that so oftentimes people don't start. And then so oftentimes people try it, don't get what they want, quit. One of the biggest things I've learned this year is, okay, you can be trying these steps, but at some point, if you're not getting what you want, you have to shift what you're doing to achieve that. So I was thinking to myself, I've gotten no one on YouTube, and I was doing it once a week. So I thought I need to start doing it twice a week. So I did it twice a week, and I started seeing the views go up. Not tons, but still I started seeing the views go up. So I'm now learning, like, okay, sometimes in life when you're trying to achieve something and something kind of big, we have to see what we're doing. If it's not working, kind of reevaluate what you're doing and reevaluate what you can do, what is in your power to achieve that.
Yeah. So a couple questions. In your biomaterial, you talk about being on ABC and CBS and NPR. How did that come about?
Yeah, that was very interesting. I realized to myself, what was it? I thought to myself, oh, this would be great if I set an intention. I was like, oh, I would like to be on TV. Like, I think I need to be on TV. And I think I wrote it down on my phone. Like, I'm being seen in front of people on TV and other things. And then there was an opportunity for that. And I thought, wow, I had no resistance over that. Because they say, like, if you haven't achieved it, it's because you have resistance. And so I think, the being on that news, I think I had no resistance to being on that news. In regards to the mediumship, though, because I know that was your original question, I don't see dead people like a person. I kind of more see spirits more, they kind of float. I'm not talking like those little snakes in your eyes, because I have those too. But this is like a light that kind of floats, and you can't always look at it straight on. It's sometimes just kind of on the side. And it kind of, I can't explain it, but it kind of like, you can see it because it kind of like goes over the actual light itself. So it kind of reflects the light that's there. And one time, so usually they tend to kind of move, and I know it's a spirit. I'm like, okay, you're here. What I feel it is it's their light. So I feel like all of us have a light. When I was doing individual readings, I tended to see them more because I think it was the loved ones coming in that wanted to see, okay, who is she? Do I like her energy? Can I, whatever. Now that I'm not doing individual readings, I don't see them as much, which is sad, but it is what it is. I still see them. And when I see them, I just say, what's your message? And I usually hear you need to meditate now, or be careful over this situation, or, drive safe on this corner. And they're usually right. But the one time my friend, who's this awesome person, her grandford, who loved her to death, always steps forward when I'm with her, and he'll just give these amazing messages to her. And one time we were outside of the Westmoreland Mall, and she's like, well, how do you know, you're talking to my grandpa? And I said, because I'm seeing a light like right there, and it's floating like in the air between us. And she's like, well, where is it? And I said, I don't know. It's like right there. And I see all of a sudden this light standing right on top of my finger. And I was like, wow, that's the first time. Like, I think I've seen it twice where it, like, I can hold my finger. I think my son asked, I said that I was seeing a spirit, and my son's like, where is it? And I said, I think it's right here. And then the spirit just kind of like stood over my finger. So it doesn't happen often, but there is those times. But it was really cool just to have that, and seeing the spirit of her grandpa just being right. And I was like, that's so crazy. And so it's beautiful. And all of the readings were primarily God's white light until towards the end. Again, I kind of more worked with spirits that were in between, which I thought was really, really beautiful too. They kind of have a bad rap sometimes, the spirits that are kind of in purgatory. But that was, working with them was beautiful too, because what I've learned about the ones in purgatory is that they feel shame. They don't want to see God because they're scared they're going to get wrath. Or they might have had a drinking problem. They don't want to, again, get wrath. They've not taken responsibility for their lives, so they're scared. So they don't want to go to the other side. But I've learned to transition them, and it's a beautiful experience. So it was. Do you want to hear a fun story?
Sure.
So there was that one CBS show. What was it called? Oh, golly. It was not Jennifer Love Hewitt. Jennifer Love Hewitt. I forget. It's been a while. It was that one ghost story. It was that one ghost show on CBS back in the day. I'm forgetting the name.
Well, there was a show called The Medium.
It wasn't that one.
It wasn't that one.
No, it was a different one. I forget the name. I apologize. But the author is based out of Ohio. And she does house blessings. That's what she does, she does house blessings. And then usually there's a spirit and she transitions them. She more transitions them into a candle light. So more like a flickering light and then candle. So I started working with the spirits in between. I think it is Jennifer Love Hewitt. Yeah, I could be wrong, but so I started doing that, and so she has this book which kind of talks about earthbound spirits, and I one of the things said that spirits don't hang out in cemeteries because it's very boring. It's very quiet. There's no energy. They need energy. So they don't, so they need to be around things. So the one time I heard I have to go to my local cemetery, and I thought, this doesn't sound right. She's saying they're not in cemeteries. So I was debating about going for months. And then I saw that she was offering a workshop. So I thought, oh, I'm going to be in Lilydale. So I'm going to go right over from Lilydale to Ohio before I go home. So I went there. And I told her, I said, I'm a medium, but I feel like I'm also working with earthbounds. She's like, oh, you can't do both. And I'm like, well, that's kind of what's showing myself. She's like, you can't do both. I was like, well, so she said, okay, I'm going to do a reading for the room and see if there's any earthbounds. So she said, there's a spirit that's from a cemetery in PA. She's like, who's from PA? I'm like hiding myself. She's like, someone's here for it. Like, who's from PA? And I raised my hand. And she said, I'm hearing that you should be transitioning the spirit. And I said, well, I wasn't sure if what I was receiving was correct. And she said, well, yeah, you are. And you need to be doing that. And I was like, okay, like that was amazing confirmation. So, to make a long story short, I went to that cemetery right in Lower Borough, New Ken. And I talked to it. It was a female. I felt like she lived in Florida or South Carolina, down south. And she was from that area. And when she died, I don't think she had family down there. And when she died, they brought her up to that area and laid her to rest. And her wishes were to be buried down south where she lived. And they said, no, we're going to bury her in her hometown. And so I think she stayed back to say, hey, I don't want to be buried here. Get me out of here. I want to go back to my warmth. I want to be dead in my warmth. And so it had been a few years. No one heard her. And so I got there and I said, is there anything you want me to do? Should I notify these people to say she doesn't want to be buried there? Which that's a weird conversation. And she said, no, I just want to be transitioned. So I did the little ceremony and I did that. And so that was really interesting. And having that conversation or that confirmation that what I was hearing was correct. And that that spirit needed to be transitioned.
Well, I hate that we have to wrap up because it feels like we could just go on for another hour. So I'd like to leave it open that I'll have you back at another time.
I would like that.
We'll continue this conversation.
Awesome.
I do like to do two things at the end of a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
One is I give my audience homework.
Oh.
And I ask them to consider our discussion, and if any of it resonates with them, to see how it might apply to their lives. And the other is to ask you to leave them with some words that you might want to leave them with.
Oh.
In terms of just talking to people who are on a spiritual journey, because we all are.
I love this.
And what would you like to leave them with?
Yeah. Can I leave with two things?
Sure.
First, I try to do offers for the podcasts I do. So I did offer, I put on a discount with my current system I give my courses to. So I did a discount for Dove, your last name, Dove 20. No space. So if you go to my website and if you see a course that you're interested in, you do have to do a full rate course. I can't do discounts on payment plan courses. But if you go there, you can get a 20% off coupon or 20% off discount. Just put that in the promo code option at the time of payment. I know the third eye psychic surgery is there, and people can purchase that there. So just do the Dove 20. So your listeners can get that. And just as a thank you for them listening. I love your question. I actually offered a spiritual journey workshops, and I that was kind of my first part before the Lighthouse Spiritual Group. So I really connect with what your question is, and I think the biggest thing to say is just to keep being yourself. I'm going to get goosebumps, and I might get a little bit emotional because it's so powerful. And to me, I feel it's the biggest thing, which is to trust what your beliefs are, and if you are a little bit different, and if people say, "Oh, that's weird," that's okay, as long as you're not harming people, and as long as it's not like you're not hurting people. Then if you believe something different, and if you have a different beliefs than most, or a different thought than most, or having different experiences than most, that's okay. And to know that that we're all unique, and that there's nothing wrong with different beliefs and different religions and different everything and different experiences. And even though if you might have these experiences and different ideas, that to continue remaining yourself, and to continue being confident. And if your current circle does not include the beliefs that you have, to search for a group that does have that belief. So that's really big. Even Lilydale, you and I talked about that earlier. Like, I'm a spiritualist. I believe that you can communicate with the dead. And so I have that belief, and I need other people with that belief. And so I found that Lilydale who kind of nurtures that, and I go there once every year. So find that group of community that believes what you do, so that you're not diminishing and hiding that part of you, but you are nurturing that, because that is what makes you different and unique.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity.
And just note that Lilydale is by Chautauqua, New York. And there will be more information about Lilydale and Chautauqua on our website.
Oh, good. Awesome.
So it's so nice to have you with us.
Thank
and
you.
I will have you back.